Hi everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This week's video I have decided to kick off a new series I wanted to do on my channel, and it's just going to be mostly focused on moving abroad. We moved from Canada to Ireland back in We moved from Ireland to Canada back in 2013, and I just thought I would do some videos just to share our experience with visas and actually moving, getting settled in, the cost that goes with it all, and it may help somebody else who's moving abroad. So let's kick it off with the first one, which is some very basic tips about moving abroad. So before we get into the basic tip, I just want to be clear that when we moved, it was back in 2013. So the rules and regulations may have changed. When I'm talking about any of the visa lengths or any costs that are associated with things, this was based in 2013 when we moved. But I will link below the immigration websites and any websites that may be of any benefit to you. And then you just click directly on them, and then they will give you any updated information, because the rules and regulations change all the time. So just be aware of that too. What I actually wanted to mention also is, although this is quite general for moving abroad, as we have moved to Canada, most of the focus and towns or cities and costs that I talk about are associated with the move to Canada. But if you're moving to Australia or somewhere, keep watching, you might get some tips. And if you do want to watch more of these videos, then you can just subscribe to my channel. Just click on the subscribe button below, and you can also hit on the notifications to get notified of my weekly videos. So the first tip on the list is, if you're watching this video and you haven't actually made any move to move abroad, but you've been thinking about it, then the first thing I just want to say is just do it. Make the decision to start looking into things properly and just try it. If you're worried that things don't work out, so what if things don't work out? At least you tried it. If you move to Australia or Canada or Austria or Norway or anywhere in the world and it doesn't work out, at least you've tried it. So if it only lasts 4, 5, 6 months, it doesn't matter. I would definitely say stop thinking about it and just do it. And I have said that before, and I'll probably keep saying it, so I do apologize if I keep repeating that. I would just recommend that if you've been thinking about it, that you just make the move and just start looking into it properly, and you won't regret it. The second thing on the list that I wanted to talk about is actually, if you are looking into moving and you're deciding where to move. So let's say it is Canada that you're saying, okay, Canada is the place I want to move to. You want to decide then what part of the country you want to move to. Is it going to be the East Coast, the West Coast? Are you going for just a year to experience the culture and the lifestyle and a different way of life? Or are you coming here to earn a good wage? Or are you coming here to settle down with your family and just stay here permanently? Decide your reasons for moving, and then from that you could probably decide where may be the best place to move. Where we live is in Edmonton, which is in Alberta, so we're over on the west coast. Alberta is known as oil country, so it is a good place to go if you want to earn a good wage. Then you have Vancouver, which is a beautiful city, a lot more expensive to live. Just the cost of living, rent, all that kind of stuff is a bit more. Toronto is also an expensive city, but it's very nice. Really busy, great kind of buzz around it. We did live downtown Toronto for a few months and it was just a bit too much for us. We moved because we wanted to try and save some money, so Edmonton was the best option. Do a bit of research, find out what each province, each city has to offer, and from there you'll probably be able to determine what is the best place for you to move to. Third on the list is the visa. When we applied back in 2013, we got at the time what was called an IEC visa, which is basically a working holiday visa. We didn't apply for it ourselves. We went through a company to do it for us called VisaFirst. I will put their link below. There's an extra cost involved in that. That cost may have changed also. I do have a blog post on our first steps to moving abroad, which I will also link below, and that has a little bit more detail with prices. You can apply for the visa yourself. At the time we were kind of a wee bit unsure of how to even go about it. We'd never done anything like that before, so we thought it would be best to go with a company to help us out. Now, having lived the torture that is permanent residency, we probably could have done it quite easily. You could give it a go. If you're a wee bit daunted by it, there is no problem. You can go through them companies. Number 4 on the list then is actually pinpointing exactly where you want to live, because you have to put that information on your visa. Well, we had to back then anyway. And from there now you're going to decide what part of the city you want to live in. For example, if you have decided you're moving to Alberta and you're going to move to Edmonton, then it's to decide, well, what exact area you want to move to. So are you going to be in the city itself? Are they going to be on the north side or the south side? Just try and do some research and see what you find. Every city in every country in the whole world has bad areas. Go online, you can check them out and see what areas are good, what areas are not so good. But ask people. Everybody seems to kind of know somebody who does live abroad. If you do have a cousin who has a friend who does live in Canada, who lives in Edmonton, ask them and they will give you some advice on what areas are good. I also recommend, and I will link them below also, is to check out some Facebook pages. There is, for example, Irish in Edmonton, Irish in Sydney, there's Irish in everywhere. There's Facebook pages to do with Irish people abroad. And I'm sure there's Facebook pages for any nationality that's abroad, because they help. You can just pop on them Facebook pages and just ask the questions you want to know the answers to. So what are the schools like? What areas are good to live in? What is the nightlife? Any kind of questions you have at all, somebody will always respond to it. They are a really good source of information. Another factor into deciding where you live will be your job. Maybe you're moving over and you already have work lined up. Well, then that's kind of half the battle, because obviously you want to live somewhere that's close to your work. If you're moving here and you haven't set up any work beforehand and you're just going to get stuck into job hunting when you move over, then that's fine. Then you can just pick and choose anywhere you do wish to live. One final thing on deciding where you want to stay is when you are looking into exactly where you want to live, I would recommend going for a month-to-month lease. This way you can really suss out the area you live in. You can spend a couple of months, see what the neighborhood is like, if it's close to where you find a job, maybe if it's close to the highways, if it's close to a bus route, etc. All that kind of stuff. Month to month, although you will be paying a wee bit more, is probably worth it just in the beginning until you do get to know your city. Number 5 on the list is just some small things kind of to know before you go. So you've decided you're moving away, and if you do have a trade or some kind of a qualification, then I'm sure before you've made any decision you have looked into the fact that, do you need to sit exams? Do you need to go back to school? What is your qualification class as in another country compared to what it is at home? You do need to really look into that stuff before you go. As an example, himself is an electrician. He's qualified for years and years and years. A fully qualified electrician here is known as a journeyman electrician. With his qualifications just being brought straight over, he would only have been classed as an apprentice. So in order to get that journeyman status, he had to sit what's called a Red Seal exam. Now other trades do also have to sit them. I am not too sure of all the trades that do. If I can find some information, I will link that below and you can just click on it and do a bit of research. And it is hard to do that after being out of the books for so long, to have to get back into your study, but it's the rules and you have to do it. It's totally worth it. Don't let it put you off. Number 6 on the list is costs. So what costs you need to consider when you are applying for your visa or when you are moving over. These are a good thing to think about. Not everybody's moving over with a lot of money in their pockets, so they're probably working on a strict budget. What we came across when we were applying for a visa, we had the extra cost of applying for the visa because we went through a company. Then you also had your insurance, which had to be valid for 2 years. That was an extra €400. And then our passports had to be valid for the same length as our visa, if not a little bit longer. Simon's was 2 years, mine was a year, his got delayed, so the rules had changed by the time he applied. We had to make sure our passports were valid. Both of ours would have been out of date within a year and a little bit, so we both had to get new passports. That was another extra cost. Then as part of our application, and I'm not sure if the amount has changed, we had to prove that we had €5,000 in the bank. When you're going through the airport and you're going through immigration and they're deciding whether to let you in and stamp your visa, part of that is they can ask you for your bank statement for proof of funds. So you do need that €5,000 in their eyes, is to make sure that you can look after yourself for a few months in the country and you're not going to be basically kind of a burden, I guess. Other costs then that I think are important to remember when you are moving is, are you going to be buying a car straight away? Certain areas like Edmonton, a car, in my mind, is kind of essential. Obviously there is buses and there's LRT, but depending on what area you want to live in, just for example, if I wanted to get the bus to work from where I live, it's almost 2 hours. It's just the route it takes, it's just crazy. Obviously you don't have to buy a car straight away or at all. The bus routes are pretty good depending on where you do live, but just another thing to kind of think about. And then obviously car insurance. Then with rent, you're also looking at paying probably your security deposit and your first month's rent up front. This will depend. Maybe if you're renting a room, it might just be $500 for your security and obviously $500 for your first month's rent. But if you're renting a house for a family, you could be looking at $1,500, $2,000, $2,500. It all depends on where you're moving to. And then furniture. You could just buy cheap furniture secondhand just to get yourself going if you do need to. There is websites like Kijiji and Craigslist. They're the same as in Ireland, I guess. It's like Done Deal. So I'll link Kijiji below. And I think that's it for my first video. Just a very, very basic quick run through of some things that you might want to consider while you are planning or you're in the middle of planning and moving abroad. I hope this is of some benefit to you, and if you did like it, I would love if you could give it a thumbs up. Do subscribe so you can stay tuned for any upcoming videos I have on moving abroad. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it as always, and I will see you next week. Bye!